Over 3,000 people died on September 11th, 2001 in a series of 4 coordinated suicide attacks upon the United States by terrorist group Al-Qaeda. And although Osama bin Laden has finally been made to pay for the 9/11 atrocity, there is another argument which continues to rage on.
As the 10th anniversary of 9/11 approaches, we are joined now by Richard Gage, the controversial architect, who claims that the falling of the buildings exhibited all of the characteristics of controlled demolition with explosives. But before he puts his case forward, let's have a look at some of the highlights from his movie, 9/11, A Blueprint for Truth.
Controlled demolitions can be engineered in many different ways. NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, claims they found no evidence for explosive demolition of the Twin Towers. Later, they admit that they never looked for it. Architects, engineers, scientists, and many others looked for it, and it was not hard to find. And we make some predictions, and we test those predictions and those assumptions with experiments. Objective, verifiable, repeatable experiments. We analyze the results and we draw conclusions.
I think I know an explosion when I hear it.
And it sounded like a countdown. And at the last few seconds, he took his hand off, and you heard 3, 2, 1, and he was just saying, "Just run for your life, just run for your life." And then it was like another 2, 3 seconds, you heard explosions.
Richard Gage, good morning. You're very welcome to the programme. Your central theory is that that building could not have gone down like that under the circumstances under which we thought we were viewing it.
Clearly, and 1,500 architects and engineers have their reputations, their licenses on the line, backing up the scientific forensic evidence that inescapably supports the hypothesis of explosive demolition in not just the 2 Twin Towers, but all 3 skyscrapers that were destroyed on that day.
Because, of course, the third one wasn't hit by any planes.
No. Yes, World Trade Center 7, the 47-story skyscraper, comes straight down uniformly, symmetrically, as you saw, into its own footprint.
The official cause for that is what? Small
office fires, and we have 8 to 10 scattered fires, and you can see they're just extremely small, and office fires have never collapsed a skyscraper before in history, and we have hundreds of examples of real hot, large, and long-lasting fires, and yet this one falls exactly like a classic controlled demolition. You have to remove all the columns almost simultaneously on each floor for 8 floors to get a building to fall at free fall. In other words, remove the 40,000 tons of structure synchronistically timed floor by floor. So people know what that building is and what it's doing. And yet we're told office fires. That means obviously someone had to be into that building, plant those explosives to bring that building down. That raises great shadows for the Twin Towers destruction, because we're told, of course, that jet plane impacts and fires brought those buildings down in a gravitational collapse.
Richard, you mentioned 1,500 architects and engineers have put their reputations on the line. There's about almost 2.5 million architects in America alone, never mind the engineers. So if on a worldwide basis you add up the figures, they're in their millions, architects and engineers. So 1,500 is a teeny tiny percentage of people who are willing to support you. So why haven't more people come on board with your belief? It's not just a theory, it's a genuine belief.
Well, and it's not even a belief, it's scientific forensic evidence, which when those architects and engineers get at least a half an hour to look at this evidence that we provide on our DVD, and that we're going to be speaking about on the 11th and 12th in Dublin and Dundalk and Cork on the 15th, they see it and they end up agreeing with us, 95% of them.
How long have you been pursuing this cause?
About 4 years now.
And still it's only 1,500 professionals are agreeing with you?
Oh, this is a lot of professionals when you consider that most of them know nothing about the third worst structural failure in modern history, World Trade Center 7.
Richard, you know, you're a highly educated man, you're a respected architect, albeit you have some controversial views. You have 1,500 other professionals and academics who support you. Why are the American government not taking this more seriously?
I'm not sure what the reasons for the denial of our ability to get this into the mainstream media in the U.S. is. It is very uncomfortable. It obviously paints a dark picture for people. We were under attack that morning. Most Americans are in a state of shock. We don't want to go back there and re-examine this information. It is just simply not easy. There's a cognitive dissonance associated with 9/11. But when we...
Well, hang on a second, but you know, so much of 9/11, the human stories, America has been racked and angst-ridden about it. So that's been analysed and parsed to the point of, almost to infinity. So why would they not actually want to analyse and parse the real cause to that extent?
Well, what they'll find is that there is a very explosive event in the case of each of the Twin Towers. When you look at these towers, it's very obvious. Gravity works downward, and yet 90% or so of this material is ejected outward. Many 4-ton perimeter wall units are sent at 70 miles an hour out and landing 600 feet away in a 1,400-foot diameter around each of the Twin Towers. There's no pile of 110 floors at the base of either Twin Tower. We're talking about 90,000 tons of concrete in this flooring, which is pulverized to a fine powder in midair before it even hits the ground. Now, when we say this to people and they watch what we're talking about, they get it. When they realize that a small team of international scientists finds sophisticated nanothermite composite explosives or incendiaries in all the World Trade Center dust, and that this is peer-reviewed in a 25-page paper, uncontested to this day, they get it. When they realize that the U.S. Geological Survey found small droplets of molten iron throughout all of this dust in spherical shape, meaning that there's temperatures far exceeding what jet fuel or office fires.
It burns at about 2,000 Fahrenheit, isn't it? And it would need to be about 2,600 Fahrenheit.
Yeah, where did that temperature come from?
Richard, what about people like, I'm just thinking about, but what about people like Dr. Seven from Cambridge who, you know, went,
talks about progressive collapsing and
Yes, he produced a multi-page paper mathematically proving that these buildings could come down at near free-fall acceleration, a dozen seconds. Now, there's 80,000 tons of structural steel in this building. How can it fall in a dozen seconds, both buildings, and no resistance?
Well, we don't, I mean, obviously neither of us are engineers
We don't have the ability to...
The obvious question is, why would anybody associated with the American administration or American establishment want to do this? Because if they wanted to create a spectacular that would get America on side going to war in the Middle East, they could have done something just as spectacular, but with an awful lot less lives, American citizens paying the price for it. Why?
Right. Well, what we're going to learn at these conferences occurring on the 11th and 12th, the Sovereign Independent magazine is sponsoring this extraordinary opportunity to learn not only about 9/11 but several other problems that the American government, the Irish government don't want people to know about, I guess. That's why they're not picking it up. We have some real problems in getting this publicized. We don't have conspiracy theories at Architects and Engineers.
So you don't know why,
Truth.
basically, is what you're saying.
We have some speculations, but
what's your
what we offer,
belief, Richard?
We're offering forensic evidence and demanding a new investigation. I don't know what kind of how wide this is. It's obviously some sort of an inside operation. That's the only way you can get the most sophisticated nanothermite composite materials in all of the World Trade Center dust, or have access to these highly secure buildings.
Richard, we'll have to leave it there. People will have to come and see you at your talks, and I'm sure they will, because it is a fascinating topic.
And we've
Thank you
had the
very
details
much.
up on
Thank
screen.
you.
Cheers. Thank you very much indeed. We'll take a break. See you back in a few minutes.